Yo, yo, yo! What is up, everybody? Hermit Style Podcast. We are back. It is Sunday, April 10th, recording on a Sunday. I actually may have to change the recording schedule because I started a new job recently. But we will see how that all plays out. But we are back. I apologize for not being on last week. Like I said, started a new job. Life has been crazy, but it's getting back on track. And yeah, I'm excited to be back. We got Jay, Chief Captain of the Kame House Security team, on with us. What's up, Jay?
Hey, how's it going?
And Jade is just coming off a big top at the PPG event.
Yeah, it was a good event. We had a lot of fun, and we'll go through all that good stuff. It was a trip. It was a trip.
Hell yeah, and I just topped the case tournament here in Virginia Beach. If you didn't know, our locals Comic Kings does a case tournament pretty much every new set release. So Mike runs that here. We had fun. I topped. Mike topped. Sean, who is the newest member of B Team on Hermit Style, actually went undefeated in the tournament, so that was fun. And actually, I have to tell this story before we jump onto the news. Because this was I don't know. I always think it's really funny when people rage IRL. It's like kind of my favorite thing in card games. Like those memories just stick with me always. Like they're the most memorable things of events for me. And so at the beginning of the tournament, right, Mike always announces the rules of the tournament. And last case tournament, some players who traveled to our tournament got mad because we weren't going by Bandai rules. So we were like, all right, we'll just go by Bandai rules because that's what people want, I guess. So this time we were like, yeah, we're playing till there's one undefeated because that's Bandai rules. We're not doing set number of rounds. Everyone's like, all right, cool. So we thought it would be 5 rounds, but after the 4th round, there was only one undefeated. So we were like, all right, tournament's over. There's only one undefeated. So we start setting up to give everybody prizing, and this dude walks up and was like, isn't there another round? And we're like, no, there's only one undefeated left, man. And he just runs off and goes, this is effing bullshit. And just like storms out of the shop. I've never seen this person in my life. I have no idea who he was. He came out of nowhere and just got so mad. And I was like, why is this guy, like, what was his record? They're like X2. I was like, so you went 2-2 and I was like, bro, if we had one more round, you still wouldn't have topped. Like, it was only a 5-round tournament. There's a small chance you maybe bubble in if there's another round. But I was like, who's complaining when you literally went 50-50 on the day, right? Like, you lost as many games as you won and you're be upset with yourself, my guy. Like, I don't know.
He's an enigma, kind of like the Pasadena crackhead. He's there, he makes a scene, and then he vanishes.
Yeah, and I didn't know what happened to him. Like, I swear the door was to the right. He walked to the left, and then he was just gone. And I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know. It was like real wild. And Mike was like, didn't I say that at the start? And everyone was like, yes, you said that at the start of the tournament. And I don't know. I thought it was hilarious just because he was very upset. But if you're listening, I'm sorry, I guess. I don't know. You should probably be a better sport. But
Shout out to the last time listener.
yeah. It like turns out to be like a frequent member of the Discord. Oh man. All right. Anyways, I just thought that was a funny story to kick off this show. So let's jump into the news.
News from the lookout.
All right, so news. We're backed up a little bit on news, so we'll try and get through this as quick as possible. Before I do, I want to shout out our sponsor, Manscaped. Look, guys, if you are not using Manscaped, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to groom. You need to take care of yourself. It's important. There's something like 90+% of significant others prefer it when their partner is groomed proper. It's a real stat on the Manscaped page. I forget the exact number. You can check it out. But check out their products. They have razors. They have deodorant. They keep you looking fresh. They keep you smelling clean. They even have, I think they call it a weed whacker, and it like takes care of all those nose hairs. Like, come on. You don't want to be playing cards and your opponent has to look at just hair just piling out of your... We don't want that. We don't want that. Don't be the smelly dude at tournaments. Don't be the gross dude at tournaments. Get yourself Manscaped. They've got the new 4.0 razor. It's amazing. I have it. I use it. It is truly good. There's even a light on it. So, you're in the dark. It doesn't matter. Your power goes out. You still have Manscaped there for you, baby. But check them out. You can go to manscaped.com, use our code Hermit Style. You get 20% off plus free shipping. Again, that is promo code Hermit Style, 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com. Okay, so on to the news. There was so we have both Fest events have finished. We had Texas and Miami for here, at least here in the States, right? And Texas had a ton of controversy. We're not going to go like crazy into it because it's just not worth it. It's been discussed over and over already for weeks now. But basically, 2 people were told if they were to draw, like if they were to just not show up to their table, they would get a draw. And they're like, all right, well, let's just go eat. So they went to go eat. And then, or actually, all right, so I've heard conflicting stories. I also heard they were actually just told that they would get a double game loss, and they were just fine with that because they wanted to go eat. So I was like, okay, like, whatever. So, and I mean, how you can't fault the players, right? The TO's telling you, like, okay, here's what will happen. If you're okay with that, you can go. And they're like, all right, bet. Like, let's go grab some food. We should top either way. And so it turns out they can't give them a double game loss. They have to give a draw. And because of the draw, it like messed up everything pretty much. And there were people who were X1 in like an 8 or 7 round tournament or something that didn't top. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Like, guy from Comic Kings that raged, if that was the case, you have every right to rage. 7-8 round tournament, you only have 1 loss, don't top. That's literally insane. So yeah, the whole thing was like really poorly handled. Thankfully, there was a good resolution. Players were compensated. Everyone, I believe, who was X2 received prizing. So that was really, really cool of them. So shout out to the TO. Shout out to Joku, who apparently was the one who led the fight to make it right for everybody. But yeah, regardless, for one, the TO should have never allowed that to happen. Like, that's just ridiculous. And there were other things going on in that event. I've heard they didn't even have deck lists for the event. Like, come on. Like, you can't say inexperience is why you didn't know that you had to have someone support a deck list. That's standard. Like, that's silly. You need a written deck list so you can prove what the deck list was. So yeah, apparently it was a mess. The Miami event was supposedly much better, but regardless, this play till undefeated rule is like really bad. And we're actually in today's main topic going to talk about what we would do to fix organized play, because it is an issue. It is truly an issue. There's no reason someone X1 shouldn't top a large event. That's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, so anyways, if you're running what the controversy was, that is like the too long didn't read version. I wasn't there. I have all secondhand info, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. That's just the gist of things. But yeah. Other than that, as far as the new format goes, we have a lot more results. We talked about that on an Evening with Hermit Style, which will be dropping. So check that out if you want to hear more talk on actual numbers as far as like what is doing well, what is not. But basically, red is just the force to be reckoned with in the meta. KP and Red U7 are like killing it. We have Ultimate Squad reveals. So they've already started new set reveals. I personally think it's a little early. I don't know why they're doing them this early. Like, everything feels like it keeps getting earlier for these reveals. Like, it's like we just get a set and then reveals start. It was like that for this past set as well. I personally would like a little bit more time in between, and others share that same sentiment. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it is what it is. And then we finally got new events, which some people are frustrated with because it said in their little time frame that it at least alluded, it appeared there would be events in April, which there are not. So that really sucks, because by the time these new events start up, we're already like prepping for the new format, and people spent money on these decks that maybe they wouldn't play. Like people are buying KP because they were like, oh, I'll play KP in April. Well, if they can't play it in April, there's no online events in May, and then KP gets banned. Like, okay, that feels really bad, right? So there really should be events in April. That's what we were all hoping for. And if there weren't going to be, they never should have put April on the website. Like, it's as simple, right? So, anyways, here are the events. If you're interested in playing in any, these are all IRL events. There currently are not any new webcam regionals named, but these are all regional level events. We've got May 1st is Core TCG in San Diego. May 7th is a Top Cut event in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. June 8th is Origins Game Fair, and then July 29th to 31st is Otakon. There was also talks that Gen Con will have a tournament as always, and supposedly the prizing is fire. I don't know. That's just the rumor that is going around. So if you are intending to go to Gen Con, I wouldn't wait. If you need to get your event tickets, or I've never been, so I don't know how it works. I would love to go, but it's too far for me to make the trip, at least for this year. So. For our folks not in the States, Oceania has an event May 1st. TAC Games is running it. And then Europe has an event June 3rd. I believe it's like June 3rd and June 5th. So maybe there's 2 events. I don't know. But it's at the UK Games Expo. So I'm assuming it's similar to like our Origins style event. But anyways, those are all of the events that I know of that have been announced that are regional events that should get you an invite should you top. So we have all of that good stuff to look forward to. And yeah, that wraps up my news. So with that said, we're going to jump into our main topic. We're going to talk about Jay's top at PPG. And then this is going to be our open letter to Bandai on how to fix your game. Here we go.
Turtle School Weekly Focus.
All right, so Jay, I'm going to pass the torch to you. I know you did a video on the Attack on Productions YouTube channel, so if you guys want to hear like a really in-depth talk on his deck profile and his matchups, you can check out that video. It's very well made. Those guys always have very high-quality production, so I guess that's in their name, right? But, but yeah, you can go check that out. But yeah, I just wanted to give Jay the opportunity to talk a little bit about the event, anything that maybe you didn't mention in the video, and just maybe like a summarized version of how it went, how you did, what you played.
For sure, yeah. So I took KP down to Louisville, Kentucky for the PPG Pro Play Tour event. It was a pretty good turnout. I think we had close to 90 people, ran by PPG, and the event itself was just fantastically run. Really enjoyed playing. Some interesting folks, some interesting deck choices throughout the format, things we didn't expect to see, but I ended up going X2. I think it was 8 rounds total, and had there been the one undefeated rule as opposed to the play the set number of rounds, I would have actually topped. So or actually I would have finished I think top like 5 or 6, somewhere in there. I only had the one loss. So we'll have some interesting perspective on what the benefit of the play X number of rounds and the...
Jay said it's easy. I top.
Yeah, I mean, basically. Like, it was cool, but it's just like, I was the person who didn't benefit from the one undefeated rule for once, and I'm not upset about it. We'll talk about that here more, but on the day, it was interesting. A lot of red U7. I think the guys touched on that in the evening with Hermit Style. It's just very red dominated format right now. So if you're not playing red, you need to play something that will beat red, or you're just going to have a bad time. And that was the experience. Met a lot of awesome people. Long trip though. I'm glad to be home. And the recovery was a couple days long, but it was worth it.
Were there any like surprise decks that performed really well that you saw at the event that you didn't expect?
A lot. Yeah, a lot of Milnemba.
Oh my god.
I don't know why. Like,
all right, I can tell you why. It's because people didn't play back in like set 5 or whenever Milnemba came out, and they like they just don't know how to play against it because they're not playing against it because it's not a real deck. Like,
yeah,
Milnemba is not a real deck, guys. Like, I get it. It has room right now because there are decks that like fly through right now. Obviously, Red U7 bursts a lot, but once the Red U7 player goes, "Oh, I just won't burst. You do it for me." You're like, "Oh, Milnemba just dies, huh?" So I think they're just taking advantage of people that are inexperienced in the matchup. Which, I mean, it's like a meme deck. It's literally like Answered 18 mil. Milnemba. If I had this podcast 2 years ago, my hate for green go tanks, literally, you just replace it with Milnemba. Like, my hate was for Milnemba all the way up till set 10. Set 10 green go tanks came out. I was like, This is the new deck I have to hate on. So yeah, you will never hear me say positive things about either deck. But I don't think the deck is real. Like I think it's even like I talked to a Spear about it because he topped in a webcam regional. He's like, the deck isn't real. Like even he said. So I'm like, bro, this is not a real deck. But anyway, sorry. Carry on.
Oh no, you're good. It was so there was like 4 or 5 people. They were a group and they all played Milnemba, and I can imagine their test results were just amazing. It was just the most ridiculous thing, and I know that there were some people who just didn't know how to play against it, and that's why it performed, at least for one of them, better than expected. Otherwise, there wasn't. I think there was one Sin Shen around the top, but I don't know that there was multiple in the room, to be honest.
Wow.
Um, it was just a lot of red. I played 3 red U7s. I played 1 King Piccolo. There's a lot of King Piccolo.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean it was. I did play a green Gotenks. You'll be happy to know that he got washed.
I
It was
bet.
my round one.
I bet.
Yeah, it was round one, and I felt bad for the guy because you could tell he was just getting back
Because he
into the
played
game
green
and
go
just
tanks. That's
yeah,
what I
that
felt bad
too.
for.
I mean, oh man, I was like, so I have to do this. Got it. Okay, but otherwise, like the tournament. It was. I tried to frame it in the context of we're playing a region. So I know with the Virginia Beach, you guys are very baby heavy, very control matchup heavy. So we're playing more towards the south. I'm figuring there's some people from Texas that traveled and expected to see a lot of red. I did not expect to see any Milnemba, and the fact that there were like 4 or 5 of them in the room is just outlandish.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. That's definitely crazy. Um, well, yeah. Well, obviously you did good. You said you got 11th place, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Nice. Well, that's dope, man. So congratulations on that. That is definitely a good showing for KP there. What were the matchups that you lost?
I lost the mirror match. That was my round, the last round, and then Red U7. And both of my matchups that I lost. So in the KP, I just didn't see a Yamcha game three. It was game one, he took it. Game two, I took it. Went to game three, and I had 4 Yamchas in deck. And in the last 15 to 20 cards, all 4 of them were at the bottom. And that's tough, especially when you can't really control their board. You just kind of lose and lost that. The Red U7 matchup, I'm a little embarrassed by. I didn't particularly misplay, but the man milled the red SS4 Broly SCR, and I thought, oh god, I got this in the bag. I didn't have it in the bag. It was. I bricked game three. Game one, I washed him. Game two was a problem, and I just didn't see what I needed to see. And then game three, I bricked so hard. I didn't see a Demon Clan until turn three. Like, how does that happen?
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, overall, good experience, but those were the matchups. I was 2-1 on the day against Red U7, 0-1 against KP, and then it was Go Tanks, Trunks Jita, which I beat, and I can't even remember what the last one is. It wasn't.
That's okay.
Oh, it was Red SS4 Vegeta, or Blue SS4 Vegeta, and
Okay.
yeah, that I win the blue matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. That is interesting though. So literally like 50% of your games were versus red. That's wild. Funny enough,
Yeah.
in my case tournament, I'll get into that in the results of training. 50% of my matchups were also red, and even in Virginia Beach. So red is everywhere. Red is the meta right now, and so far from the reveals doesn't look like that is going anywhere. We got the new GT deck revealed, so I think at least on the Hermit Style team, the common thought process is that KP is going to get hit and Red GT will take its place. Like everyone that was playing KP is just going to play GT, and Red U7 is probably still a deck too, and those are just going to be the two now. Instead of KP and Red U7, it's just the new GT deck and Red U7. So the new GT deck seems crazy. It seems crazy. The buyouts have been real wild for it. Triple Flash, the SPRs. Oh my god, I looked because I'm interested in playing the deck. I love Triple Flash, so I was like, oh baby. I looked. I was way too late. It was like day one. I was already too late on those SPRs, so I was like, I don't know if I can play this deck without SPR Triple Flashes. So that might take me out of it, but yeah, it is crazy because we haven't seen red either in the format like this for a long time, like this prominent. I don't know if red's ever been this prominent actually. Like
That week that Red Broly was good, maybe. Like
yeah,
that was everywhere for like a couple weeks, and then once people learned to play around it, except me and Zach, of course, then it just kind of died out.
yeah, Yeah, and like obviously I wasn't playing at this time, but when Red KV was a deck,
Oh
everyone
yeah.
was playing that. Um, but I mean that didn't even get a chance to do anything. It got banned like immediately, so it's just whatever. And then
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was
know.
its own fake format. Like there was nothing that was there for, a flash in the pan a couple weeks, and then once they realized what they'd done and people started exploiting Belmod, that was gone. And it
Yeah,
had to be.
yeah. So here we are. Here we are. Red is finally the dominant color. Pretty crazy. So all right. Anyways, I guess we can pivot here and transition into what Bandai needs to do to fix organized play. This is actually inspired by Joey's video. If you guys did not check it out, Joey Crossroads TCG. I'm sure he does not need an introduction. He put out a video on basically why the current organized play rules are not good for the health of the game and are creating a poor player experience. And he put out basically all of his thoughts on what should be changed, why, and how it would benefit the game. I thought he was very well spoken, did a great job at doing that. And I think as any content creator that has any kind of outreach for the game, I think it's important when these kinds of issues arise that we go out of our way to put some content out there to try and grab Bandai's attention, because I've talked about this before, but I will say I probably wasn't as aggressive about it as I should have been. But if you listen to some of the older podcasts, we talked about it, how like, yeah, undefeated sucks and it shouldn't be there, but that was pretty much it. I was really focused on when Nats came around that they shouldn't be making changes like 2 weeks before a format, which I thought took precedence over this undefeated rule and the tiebreaker rules and everything. And then I also felt that they shouldn't be releasing a set like literally the day before the largest event of the year. Like, that's crazy. Like I still don't agree with it. I still think it's very dumb. But like clearly a money grab by everyone involved, so whatever. But that's besides the point. That's gone and past. So I think we need to focus our attention on, okay, like what are the biggest things going wrong in organized play and how do we improve the player experience, which I guess we'll start by talking about the undefeated rule. I'll be interested to hear your perspective on it, especially based off your last tournament. In my opinion, undefeated rules should not exist. It should have never been made. If you look at any major card game, it's never been a thing. Bandai made this rule to try and combat draws. There were people complaining about draws in the game, and they felt that this was a way to combat it. If they made a play till the undefeated, as well as creating a new system of tiebreakers, they felt it would fix. That was the fix to the issue that was currently going on in organized play. Clearly, that's not the case. Texas was proof of that. We had, again, there were two players, X1, who did not top, and it was solely because of this play till undefeated rule. It was a tournament that obviously needed another round. We can go all the way back to Nats, and you can use the same thing. Like, literally 40th, I think, place had the same record as 15th and 16th place. That's dumb. Why should 40th place get zero prizing, right? Like they don't get top 32, they don't get top 16, but they had the same exact results as 15th and 16th place, who got basically thousands of dollars in prizing, right? Like with the metal card and the alt art. That's a slap in the face. You spend all this time testing, all this money traveling, you do all this prep work, a lot, just time in general, like so much time involved, and it's like a slap in the face because of these poor rules. Had we had another round and they lost, cool, you weren't worthy, like, right, you didn't make it. But if you win now, hey, you rightfully earned your top now. So it's just silly. That should have been enough right there for them to fix it, and there should have been more outcry right then, which there wasn't. But now that we have players going X1 and not topping, that's literally asinine. I think it has to change immediately. There needs to be a set number of rounds based off the number of players in attendance to ensure that there is a proper distribution of placement. But how do you feel on it, Jay? Because maybe you have a different perspective.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I would have been the benefit of the one undefeated rule, and I hate that rule. I think it's an absolutely garbage rule, and I'm here to be aggressive because we need to be aggressive about this.
'Cause we're an aggressive team.
That's the most aggressive.
Most aggressive team in DBS, baby.
Always, always. So I think that the rule is absolute garbage. It needs to go. Let the players decide. Like, if you want to strive to be top 16, top 32, leave it in the players' hands. Make them go out and play the last round and go get that win if they want it. And Russell Stelzer did everything in his power to get top 16 and just bubbled to 17th because of this garbage rule. We could have ended the tournament a round early, and I would have been the benefit of that. And I think it's just bad for player experience. Yeah, you see people getting upset when they bubble out, and they really shouldn't. I think if we had that one additional round, it gives the players an opportunity to go earn it one last time. Tournaments are long, they're fatiguing. I think Nats is evidence of that. We were there for like 12, 13 hours, something like that.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we're there for a reason. Let us go play the game. And I know a lot of players are going to agree with that. It's a bad rule. Set number of rounds based on player attendance is the way to go. And I'm really happy that Fest at Texas, Fest at Miami switched it up to a set number of rounds. That was beneficial, and then they doubled back on it here in Kentucky. And I think that it was just made for a good player experience all around.
Yeah, everyone I've heard talk about the set number of rounds that PPG did, like, kudos to PPG. They're doing it right, and they are proving to Bandai that, one, players like this, and two, it works. Like, sure, TOs might have to stay for an extra hour, but you know what you signed up for. Like, come on. You know what you signed up for when you do this thing. You don't have plans that night. Like, your whole day, your whole night, like, it's off the books. You're running the tournament, and that's it. And if you don't want to commit that kind of time, then don't run the event. Like, you chose to run the event, right? No one, like, Bandai isn't holding a gun to your head, like, run this event and stay the extra hour. Like, you can say, no, I don't want to run the event then. But realistically, this is what the players need to have a proper experience when they play the game.
And to that point as well, I also think that the TOs that are handling it aren't being as efficient. They're not practiced enough to really make sure that it's not a very time-consuming ordeal between rounds. Like PPG, kudos to Patterson, kudos to George Machado, because when the round ended, it would be report, post, we're on to the next round. Yep. It was that quick. There were people still packing up their stuff from their last round before pairings were announced. And it just kept moving. It was great. And if you want to be a TO and you're worried about that extra hour of time, just do better, honestly, because that's the way to solve it. We didn't have a 10 to 15 minute lapse or a repair. We got it done. We did it right the first time, and they killed it.
I feel like I'm back at my last job and my manager's sitting me down going, let's talk about your time management, right?
For real though, like, if they just manage time better, and we got out of there, I think we started at noon. We had to register by 11:30, and then we were done by 8, I want to say, for 8 rounds.
Right.
And it's best of 3.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. They killed it. They absolutely killed it.
So yeah. Okay. So we're in agreement on that then. That's good. So yeah, this needs to be changed. And here's the crazy part though, right? Like, I have never seen one person be like, thank God we have play till undefeated. Like, I'm so happy we have this play till undefeated rule. If you're that person, please tell me. I would love to hear your perspective on why this is a good thing. But I've never heard it from any player. Like, I don't think in the history of me playing card games, I've ever seen players unanimously agree on a thing. Like, this is nuts. No one agrees that play till undefeated is a good thing, and no one else does this but Bandai. So, like, Bandai, you need to change this. Like, if I've got Bandai spies listening, if Bandai reps are listening to this, you need to change this, like, ASAP, because people do not like it. And ultimately, you're going to lose the top competitive players. And losing top competitive players in the game is way more detrimental than losing, like, a casual player, because they're the ones that are driving out these crazy deck lists that all the casual players want to play. They're the ones who are defining formats. If you lose that whole group of players, there's not many of them, right? Like, maybe 100, I don't know. You lose those players, like, that's so detrimental to your game from a competitive perspective. Maybe it lives on casually. Like, casual players definitely are the people who drive the sales, but these people are the ones putting all this time and investment into their game. They're the ones that are making sure these events fire off because they're traveling, bro. They're traveling everywhere. They're going. They know if they get first place on some of these tournaments, they're losing money. They just love the game. So like, and this is such an easy way to appease them, improve the quality for everybody, and keep your retention high. Continue having these competitive players grind this content, make these decks, put things out there to inspire more people to play. Like overall, it's just a good thing. So there's no reason why we should have this play till undefeated rule.
Yeah. And I think you're going to alienate a lot of the content creators too, because a lot of the content creators double as competitive players. Joey, Aspira, like those guys can absolutely play this game at a high level. And if you start alienating them, they're going to look elsewhere and they're going to stop creating content and pushing it and doing quality work to promote the game more than a lot of times Bandai does themselves. So it's a win-win if you just change the rule, listen to your player base, hear what they have to say, and then make the adequate changes that they're looking for.
Yeah, and Bandai is really lucky that we have this pool of content creators. I've never seen a competitive card game with this many solid content creators consistently putting out great content, not behind a paywall. Like, there's so much content you can absorb for this game and just jump right into and get competitive. You can go on Crossroads and learn everything in the format. You can go on Eggman and get every single deck list from like every tournament. You can go on like literally there's so many different channels out there. There's dozens. And you just have all of the top performing decks. Like I heard someone talking the other day in another card game. There was an event that happened like 3 weeks ago. It was a huge event. They still can't even find any of the topping deck lists. Like in Dragon Ball, we're complaining if we don't have them that night. Like people are mad. They're like, where are the deck lists? Because we're like so privileged to it. And other card games are not like that. And these content creators for Dragon Ball either, we don't have the kind of reach that Yu-Gi-Oh has. Like you look at like content creators that are making money, like with Patreon accounts on Yu-Gi-Oh that are successful, that's their full-time job. Like they're making a bigger salary than any, like it's crazy how much money they're making. Like you can go look at their Patreon and look how many subscribers they have in their lowest tier. Do the math of what the minimum they could make is. It's not hard to figure out. Like they have a full, which is good for them. Like that's great. You're putting out quality content, but Dragon Ball doesn't even have that to leverage in content creators to want to do it. We have a very small reach. We're all just dedicated to the game and wanting to grow it. And you just don't want to lose that. Like that's invaluable to the game's success. So,
Joey's putting out 10 to 15 minute videos 5 days a week. Aspire is doing something similar.
That's nuts.
There's so many good quality content creators in this game putting effort and time into it. When they have a cry for a change, you really should look into listening to them. And it's not just, let's just say you lose Joey as a content creator. Everyone in his orbit, Mike, Jordan Markle, so on and so forth, Frank Miller, those people are going to look a little differently at the game and whether they want to continue to play because now their buddies are gone and they're dropping the game. And that right there, you're losing, you just lost Joey. You might lose another 4 or 5 players that are competitive. Good.
And then what about the 3,000 views he gets on every video? What about every one of those players when all of a sudden all of his content is My Hero or whatever the game that they go to is, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, exactly. All right. So I think we've nipped that in the butt. Well, I'll pass it off to you. Did you have another talking point on something that you would like to see changed in organized play?
So I think TOs, I kind of touched on it with PPG. TOs need to be more efficient. We have a lack of really quality TOs in this game, and I know there's a lot of effort to do so. We need to support them and give them the tools to thrive. So with the Fest in Texas, they said it was a software issue where they couldn't report a double game loss. That's got to be tested and put through, and we can avoid an issue where there should have been a double game loss. And honestly, we got to revisit the rules on how that is going to play out with possibly just dropping someone. And it's an intentional draw. In the rule books, it's very clear that's a disqualification. And I actually got to speak with John Patterson a little more in depth. But as far as organized play, your biggest event of the year, Nationals, you really need to make sure that the first time people are judging isn't at Nationals. You should never have judges stepping on that floor as the resource that they're supposed to be for the first time on the biggest stage, because they got calls wrong then. So I think it really goes back to making sure that there's a good judge program, and that we can solidify a good group of judges to make sure that we have knowledgeable people there that aren't going to mess up rulings, and it's consistent across the board. So I think there needs to be a revamp of the judge program. And I checked the website, says it's coming soon, but it's been saying that for a while now. So
who knows?
When soon? Like, define soon for me, and maybe I'll be a little happier. But yeah, judging needs to be like, they have their discussion group. Give them a solid backing. Make sure that they have the resources they need to make the correct calls accordingly. And I talked to Patterson too on the Dragon Bullet. He would have ruled it the way that the rule book, like the way you had it, where it's a floodgate, because
that's how the card should have
he's
always
got to
worked.
interpret the rules exactly. So
all right. So like, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, bro. It is wild for any judge to rule based off intent. That is literally the worst thing you can possibly do for any card game. I don't care what anyone says. I get to argue, okay, yeah, we're adults. We know how the card should work. Doesn't matter. It's a slippery slope, because now you put all the power in one person's hand to say, how do you feel this card works? What? Yeah. Bro, how do I feel the card? I feel this card says I tap 5 and I win the fucking game. Like, what?
It should never be open to interpretation.
No.
It should be very, very clear and defined.
It has to be rules as written, bro. Like, imagine, like, you go rob somebody, right? And it's like, yeah, but I felt that it was okay because he needed the money for his family. So I'm gonna let him off. It's okay. Robbing for that person, he's allowed to do that. That's my ruling. That's how I feel about it. Like, bro, get out of here. That sounds wild to me. Like, I'll argue this point with anybody. It has to be rules as written, and we need quicker response times from Bandai. If there's an issue, then fix it, right? Like, if you're that judge and you're like, okay, this is how it should work, then go do what you need to do to put out the errata. Talk to Bandai. I'm sure it's a terrible process. I'm sure it takes long. I can't believe it happened as quickly as they made it happen. Kudos to everyone who was a part of that. Like, that was nuts. I was like, there's no way response time's going to be fast enough to get this done for the events. And they proved me wrong. I was like, damn, good for you guys. You did it this time. But rules have to be, like, you have to rule cards as they are written and as they are processed in the rule book, right? Like, treat it like a video game that you put through, like, a processor, right? Like, if Dragon Ball is completely digital, cards are not working off how someone feels. They're working on however the rules process through however they created that program, right? However they created that application. And if they created it correctly and all the rules processed correctly, that card is going to work as a floodgate, because that's how it reads. And that's how the rules interpret that. Like, yeah, okay, you can throw as many hissy fits as you want in the main group about how, like, oh, there's a period here, so let me do calculus and figure out why that changes the card. Like, bro, I don't care, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I read the rules. This is how the card is interpreted. And if you can't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. You need to go talk to a judge that can explain it to you or read the rules again. So, and I've already explained it on the podcast. So if, like, you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know what episode it is, but I don't know. I'm not going to explain it again. Either way, rules have to be made as they are written. Cards have to be ruled as they are written and how they are processed through the rules. There cannot be anything in between that. Any judge who does not do that should immediately be revoked as a judge. They should not be allowed to judge whatsoever, because that's ridiculous. Like, imagine someone who isn't on social media, right? And they go to an event because they're like, okay, I actually understand how the rules in this game works, so I put 4 of this card in my deck because it's the best card in the game and it's broken. Okay, I should be able to use the card. But then imagine that judge saying, no, it doesn't work like that, and now you have 4 dead off-color cards in your deck. Like, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, that's crazy. Now, obviously, this is an extreme example. Like, if you have any common sense, you're probably going to talk to the head judge first and know what you would play differently. But, like, regardless, it doesn't really matter, because that's how the card works. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I agree with you. Cards need to be ruled as written. Judge program needs to be revamped and be able to introduce new judges, have regular testing to keep judges on top of their shit and be held accountable. And players have to understand that judges are human on the flip side. Like, they are not going to rule every single ruling correctly. You will get bad rulings called against you, because that is life. They are not machines. They cannot just process the rules like a machine would. There's going to be intricate situations. They're going to get it wrong at the highest level. If you watch sports, look at the Super Bowl. Refs get shit wrong all the time, and they get paid way more than these judges do. Like, we can't help that, but we can do things to increase the quality, put out a better program, make sure judging aren't ruling based off how they feel that day. They have to rule based on how written, and that's it.
Did you create a podcast so you could rant? Because that's
Yeah.
genius. I would.
Yeah, I did. I think I'll call it Hermit Style.
That sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah. But anyways, I would love to argue with someone who doesn't agree with me because I feel very strongly. Not really, though.
As you should. Like, honestly, it seems like it's common sense. It's okay to make human error, but when reading and interpreting a rule book is part of your job and you have the resources and the time to make a calculated decision, it's not like in football where you see something and then you have to explain what you saw and you don't get to replay it. Like that's a spot decision that you need to make that decision. And it's a lot different. And when you have multiple resources to confer with and you still make the wrong decision, like that can't happen.
Yep. I agree. And I think also what Bandai could do, like you said, is create resources for the judges. So when there are these situations, right, and there are more intricate things that judges may disagree on, they can have like some Bible, if you will, that says like, okay, this is this interaction, this is how it works. So all judges can be on the same page and they can refer back to whatever that resource is, right? Like we have the Q&A on the website, but maybe something a little bit more in depth that maybe judges have access to, like readily able to access during an event, that maybe they can help them. And if a ruling, I don't know, like there's a million different ways to go about the logistics of this, but regardless, there have been a lot of times where judges are not on the same page. So, and that's not their fault though, right? Like they can't help that they're working in a very flawed system with the cards stacked against them. Like that's on Bandai. Bandai needs to do a better job at organizing the judge program, creating better resources for the judges, and putting the judges who are actually ruling cards factually and very strongly, put them in positions of leadership to lead the other judges and help them, right? Like, it just has to be a better system than what we got, clearly, because you hear things wrong all the time. Like, this wasn't the only issue we've had in the Dragon Ball Super card game. It's never going to be perfect, but shouldn't we be striving for that? Like, do we just say, okay, well, judges get it wrong sometimes, so we don't need to fix anything? That sounds crazy. If I go to work tomorrow and I get some shit wrong and I'm like, well, I get stuff wrong sometimes, boss. That's crazy. I'm probably going to get slapped. And I can't even file an assault charge, right? Like, that's nuts. So, I mean, I could, but I probably deserved it, right? So, I don't know. That's nuts.
There's a Will Smith joke in there somewhere. Yeah, I'm not going to make it, but there is one in there somewhere.
Did Chris Rock deserve it? Put it in the comments below.
Yes. Somebody tell me how to feel on that one.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I agree. Judge program needs to be revamped. Shout out to all the judges though that are doing their best, right? Like we have a lot. Like I don't want this to be taken as like we're shitting on all the judges, because we have judges that put in a ton of work. Like I see Eric Thompson in the group, like every day answering every damn question everybody has, with these, like, for lack of better terms, is idiots trying to argue with him and trying to tell him that cards that clearly don't work that way. And he's like very professional in his responses. It's just like, this is how it works. Here's the rule. They're like, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Here's the rule. Like 16-5, chapter 5, line 5. Like he just...
He's got it.
There. He's got it on point.
He's got Control F is worn out. That guy searches all the rules. And it's okay to like justify your reasoning and why you think this way, but when somebody as experienced as him comes down and says that's not how it works, just shut up. Shut up.
Exactly. I'm like so like they put up with a lot. So like kudos to them. Like they put up a lot. They do a lot for the community. Like Brian in our Discord, Hurricane GL, he's always in there answering rule questions. Slammers isn't even a judge, but he's always in there. He should be a judge. He's very good with rules.
Give that man a judge. No, you know what? New role, judge. If he doesn't have it, this man deserves it. He's put in more time than a lot of these judges do, and they put in a lot of time and they deal with a lot of crap from us players. It's going to help the organized play experience and retain your player base if you have adequate, consistent, and good judges. And the next time somebody says, well, I got an email from Bandai, and that's why this rule works this way, I will slap you.
Lots of slaps this episode.
Oh, my God. So aggressive.
We are. We've gone full circle. All right. So, but yeah, I think we've hit that. I think we've hit that pretty good. So thank you to the judges who are putting up
Hit that
with
pretty good.
working in a
Nice.
flawed system. I hope that Bandai listens and provides you better resources and a better system. And for people like Slammers out there who are grinding as if they were a judge, I hope that this happens soon so you can become a judge, because we need people like that in the game. I don't want some guy who got his, like, you don't want me, bro. Like, I'm a judge. I'm 100% a judge. I can tell you right now, you do not want me as your judge. You do not. You call judge, you get me to your table, you're fucked. You got a 50-50 shot. I rule you correctly. If it's some wild, like, intricate thing with periods and commas, and I'm gonna go off a whim, say some stuff. Hopefully it's right. Like,
Look at the leader, Milnemba. You're wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you're wrong.
You're fucked. Immediately when I come over,
Yeah.
you're screwed. So, but I could judge if I wanted to. I'm technically certified still. I haven't taken the judge test since set 1, but I'm a judge. Like, that's crazy, right? There's no way.
Don't make that judge money.
No one should ever have me as a judge for their event. That sounds crazy. That sounds actually wild. So, I mean, maybe I do a better job than some, but probably not most. But if the pricing is good, like, shit, if you want me to do it, I'll do it. Give me some of them judge. Like, bro, Worlds,
yeah.
That's crazy. So, like, Bandai, your system is flawed. Judge program needs revamped. You can't have crazy off-the-wall pricing like you gave out for Worlds, but you can't also have crap pricing that no judges want to participate. It's not like rocket science. It should be pretty easy to figure out a solid compensation system for judges where they're incentivized, but they're not plussing more than the person who literally won the event. That sounds stupid too. So, like, just literally think about what you're doing. There's a lot of ways to fix it, but please do something, because nothing has happened with Judge Program in a long time. All right, I'm going to move us on to the next part. Best of one pre-side. I think Best of one pre-side was actually one of the things you got right. You tested it for Fest. We have seen very positive player feedback to Best of one pre-side. It ran very smoothly. I haven't really seen any complaints about it. It's allowing events to run more quickly, and it takes out the variance of just strictly BO1 without your side deck. It does change the format some, because decks that are more vulnerable to side deck cards that really rely on having a strong game 1 maybe get a little bit weaker, and maybe decks that didn't perform as well in those matchups, or maybe certain control decks that really need access to certain cards in a matchup, maybe they get a little bit of a buff. Regardless, it just is a better way of doing best of one. Best of one has way too much variance. Any best of one tournament should be best of one pre-side. I get it that there's issues with cheating in webcams. Newsflash Bandai, there's cheating in IRL tournaments too. People are just idiots and don't know how to call it out. And people also sometimes just don't want to call a judge because they are too nervous, which I'm telling you right now, if you're a player, do not be nervous to call a judge. But regardless, people get nervous sometimes. People are intimidating. Like, I'm sitting across the table from Mike, bro. I'm probably not calling. All right, bro, you got it. Like,
punch.
But, you know, you need to call a judge if you see cheating. But regardless, it happens. You can walk around and see people cheating. Like, come on. Haven't y'all heard of people like? All right, I won't name. I was about to name a name. I won't name names, but you can easily go back to the history of Dragon Ball pre-webcams and see known cheaters that cheated in IRL events. There are people who are banned for it. There are people who were caught and never penalized that still play the game currently, regarded as top players. It's nuts, right? But they were proven to be cheating multiple times, caught on stream. But for some players, for some reason, it's okay. But my point behind all this is, cheating is going to happen with literally any card game, any competitive game you have where you can be compensated. If you can get some kind of monetary value out of it, people will cheat, steal, do whatever, lie, so they can get the money, right? That's just part of it. Having best of one pre-side does not impact that whatsoever. It doesn't. Like, sure, I can have multiple side decks laid out off my computer screen. Yeah, like, I could also just have cards off my screen anyways, right? That I could just pull at any time. Like, it doesn't matter. You can come up with a million reasons of how to cheat or why to cheat. But if we take away best of one pre-side for that reason, I think you're doing a disservice to the game in a format that people actually truly love. Although cheating feels like it's rampant sometimes because of people who get called out, if it's 2 people out of a 200-man event, that's 1% were cheating. All right, like, whatever. I'm sure 1% of the players at Nats were cheating. I'm sure 1% of the players in Lily, every fest were cheating. Like, It just is the nature of the game. That's just how it runs. So, in my opinion, it's a fine format. It keeps games quicker. It's more fun. It has less variance, which anyone who plays competitive games wants always less variance and more skill. So we should definitely move forward with best of one pre-side. And TOs should like it because the problem we talked about earlier with events running too long, they won't run as long, right? You can do like 35-minute rounds and 5 minutes of OT. That should be perfectly fine. 40 total minutes to finish one game. Like, best of threes are 60 minutes because your average is 20 minutes a game, right? So 40 minutes for one? Come on. You should
Plenty
be in
of
there.
time.
That should be plenty of time. You need to judge on your opponents for slow playing if you're still going to time, or you yourself need to play faster. That's like the only two things about that. But yeah, I think that should definitely happen. However, should only be for regional events and below. We should never have best of one pre-side for Nats, Worlds, anything like that. Those should always be strictly the highest level of competition should always be the highest, basically the format that rewards the most skill, right? Which is always, best of three is always king. Like, there's no argument made about that. Unless, all right, sure, you can make my argument best of 5, like best of 7, obviously, sure, whatever. But
don't give them ideas. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't. Next thing you know, they're gonna skip past everything we just said in the last segment, and they're gonna go best of 5. That's what they want. Give it to them.
But like, I think it's Epic, the card game Epic, and like their worlds, like when you get to like the top 8, it switches to like best of 5 or 7 or some like crazy shit, which I think is actually pretty cool. And like each each game is like a different format. Like they do like a sealed and like all these different it's actually pretty cool. Like they try and do the biggest skill test possible for the players at that event. So like that's pretty neat, right? But regardless, best of 3 has to be intact for the highest level competition. But regionals, IRL regionals, webcam regionals, anything below that, store champs, best of one pre-side, I think is the way to go.
Yeah, without question. I think it also kind of balances the dice roll. So when you lose dice roll, there are some decks where you just lose. I think going and being able to best of one pre-side gives you that little offset where you might be able to survive and change up your deck list enough to be able to go second. So I think it does benefit that. I also think, like you said, you can shorten tournament times with players being able to adapt their deck lists and play it a little bit differently if need be. So I think it just benefits everyone in the player base, but I completely agree. Best of 3 for Nats for any of the highest level ones, because it's just you gotta make sure your best players are the ones that are winning this event, the ones that play best at this moment, and you got to take as many variables out of there, like a dice roll being a deciding factor out of the bigger tournaments whenever possible. So I think that's absolutely a good idea to move forward.
Yep, I agree. Okay, cool. So yeah, so best one pre-side, please. It went well at Fest. Bandai, like, give it to us. Like, make me not sit in my room for 8 hours for a webcam regional. Make it only 5 hours. That would be phenomenal. If I can sit in my room from 11 to 4 and have my whole night, that'd be fantastic.
And to double back on the whole cheating thing, I wasn't so sure that I was being cheated in my Kentucky tournament, but after talking to somebody who had the same opponent, now I'm certain that there was cheating IRL. So again, just doubling back on that point, it happens in both scenarios. Whether they get called out for it is completely up to the player base, and frankly, you're doing a disservice to your other players if you don't call it out. So I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to go ahead and slander this person because I can't confirm it. But after speaking to somebody who had the same opponent, I'm like 95% sure that there was IRL cheating. So again, can't let that be a deciding factor.
Like, no,
absolutely.
Not. And a lot of it is soft cheating, like very small things that like you have to really
that's
look
what
closely.
It was.
Or like even like little things like looking at the bottom card of your deck when you shuffle. That's cheating, right? Like that you should not have knowledge of the bottom card of your deck. But I see people do that all the time. People will be like, oh, bro, you just looked at a card. Like, come on.
Yeah. If you're playing Majin Vegeta, you tap one, look at the bottom card of your deck, boom, now you know what it is.
Yep.
And you know what? You get that benefit because it plays. Yeah, that's definitely something that's you got to address it. And ironically, he was wearing headphones. They were around his neck, though, but he was wearing headphones when it happened. So I was like, it's poetic. It's so poetic. I love it.
Oh, man. All right. So, yeah, agreed. Okay. So that was. Did you have another point you wanted to make?
No, we crushed it. Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Okay. I before we finish up, I want to talk about overtime. I think that for one, in best of three events, you need to allow players to have turns in game two. It's ridiculous that you don't. The match is not over. You're in a game and you're in overtime anyways. What is the point of not allowing them to play the last three turns, right? Like that's nuts. That's actually nuts. And the real reason is because they don't want draws, right? So like if we play turns, the other player wins and didn't win game one, and you start sideboarding, and then overtime it has to end. Then it has to be a draw, because the only way to get a draw is if you are sideboarding and setting up while going into game three. That's the only way to get a draw right now, and they don't want draws. So that's the real reason why they did it, which brings me to my second point. You need to just allow draws. Draws are in almost every game. It doesn't matter. If I'm 6-0, let me draw. I fucking earned it, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the people that are mad about it are usually the people who aren't going to top anyways. Like, they're the people that are trying to bubble in. If you're trying to bubble in, you might as well consider yourself not topping. Like, that sounds crazy. It reminds me back when I would compete in martial arts tournaments. I've competed the most in like submission wrestling events, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu events. And people all the time would get mad over points. I was like, yeah, but you could have just submitted the guy. Like, why did you leave it in the judge's hand to determine whether you were mounted this person for enough seconds to get your points for securing the position? Maybe you should have just beat him, right? Like, maybe you shouldn't have left it in the judge's hands. Same thing with professional fighters. They want to complain over split decisions. Maybe you should have just won the fight, bro. Like, maybe you should not have just let all the time run out. Maybe you should have been more proactive in trying to win. Same thing applies to Dragon Ball. Like, if... I don't know. I think, like, if you do well enough that you draw and you can make it the top cut, like, why would you... That sounds dumb, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm usually in the minority for this, but when you can't, granted, they did change the rules to enforce it, so whatever. But I think that the rules are trash for determining the winner of a game. Like, rules are actually trash because there's no good tiebreakers in Dragon Ball. Like cards and cards in life, there's decks that have to take their own life. So, okay, you're just screwed. And then, cards and deck. Okay, there's cards that draw more. And if I'm drawing more, I'm probably, like, traditionally playing Dragon Ball, I'm playing better than you because I have more cards in my hand. Battle cards on board. Some decks just don't build a board like that, like other decks can. If I'm playing against AOD, like, damn, like, screw me, right? I'm losing once we get to that tiebreaker. I could be beating the hell out of him. He just summons a million people. That sucks. Blue deck just plays, like... Do I just side in Obuni so I can tap 4 in a blue deck so I have more battle? It's just like there's no good tiebreakers in Dragon Ball. Like, there just won't be any. So that's just more reason to not penalize a player. Just let them have a draw. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal if the rest of the rules are structured correctly. Draws are a problem because the rules were not structured correctly and they were ending tournaments too early. We can avoid all this if you just have a proper setup like almost every other major card game. But yeah, so I think that we should always have turns in game 2. There should be draws, and the tournament format should just support it so that way people don't get screwed and bubble out if they're like X1, like what happened in Texas.
It also encourages slow play. So if you've won game 1, you just slow play game 2. Goes to time. Like, I know people who literally did that. And I had 2 guys that came down with us to Kentucky that had a draw round 1. And you sit there and look at them in the face and go, how did you do that? Like, what, why? Like, so either you're scumming, you slow play them, or you take a draw. And it's a lose-lose regardless. But kind of to your point, just play the game. Let it play out how it's supposed to play out. And at the end of the day, just let it fall. Because if I'm King Cold and I'm going against a deck that wants to stay at a higher life, I'm trying to win the game, actively win the game. But I have to take my life in order to do so, to get awakened, to do all this stuff. But don't punish me for trying to win the game when somebody else is just sitting on their hands, trying not to lose the game at that point, which is absolutely garbage. And to your point, the like mixed martial arts, don't let it go to the judges. Win the game.
Yep.
play faster. Know your deck. If you put the reps in to get to a nationals or even a regionals, you should know what your deck does enough to play it relatively quickly.
I said this every time this topic comes up. Mike and I both played the slowest deck in Dragon Ball at Nats and had no issue finishing whole matches. No issue. Mike finished more than me. And I can tell you right now, it was on my opponent. And I'm not getting an argument over, okay, they have more play lines to pick. Bro, you got 3 attacks. Attack, play some cards, pass turn. Like, get out of here. You're at Nats. If you can't play at that level, don't be here. Like,
and you knew it was going to be a deck.
Right. Like, it sounds aggressive, but we're at Nats. Like, cut the bullshit. You know how to play Dragon Ball if you're here. If you don't, why are you even playing? Right? So it's like, play your deck, play quick, and keep things moving. And I had no issues. Yeah. The only time I went to time was because my opponent allowed it, and I had already won game 1. I was like, sure, bud. You can take 10 minutes to figure out your turn. That just means I definitely win now. So, yeah, and moving us into the topic of slow play, that was the last point that I had to talk about. Slow play is a very interesting topic to me because it is something that we have no way to quantify. There is no ruling on what is slow play, and I think the reason is because it's a double-edged sword. If you make a rule and quantify it, it's like opening up Pandora's box. Because now you have people that will push it to the limit. Like if you say, okay, slow play means taking more than 1 minute per action. Well, now you have people that will just do random actions, right? And wait 59 seconds to make their next action and make it impossible for my opponent to ever call me out for slow playing. But I could just have a bunch of cards that have like activate main for free. Wait 59 seconds. Attack. Trigger auto. Wait 59 seconds. Draw. So like that's flawed.
Do that against the most aggressive team and see how that goes.
But like that's a flawed system, right? So then it's like, okay, you can put how many minutes per turn. Okay, well, if you say 3 minutes, okay, well, like, what if I was actively doing things and my deck just has a million things on my turn? Like back in like Storm format, right? Like a turn could take forever. They probably weren't slow playing. They were probably just playing the game. It just took a while to resolve every effect, every attack, and keep cycling through everything. So it's like, how do you accurately define slow play in a means that you can call a judge? I don't know if there's a correct answer. I would love it if there was one, but it just like opens up this like can of worms. But then it's also on the flip side, how do you enforce it? Because if I call a judge for slow play, right? All right, like say you call a judge for slow play on me. Judge comes over. Judge, you were slow playing. No, I wasn't.
Good. It's resolved. Perfect. They walk away because they have another judge call. Yeah, it's wild. And I think you can eliminate certain things.
I just messed up my headphones.
Oh, way to go.
I hit my cord out of the headphones. I can't hear you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Nailed it.
But yeah, it's like a he said, she said kind of thing with slow play. So like, I probably shouldn't even say this, right? Because now slow players are like, oh, I have that out, right? There's a lot of things I don't talk about publicly on how the rules are flawed because I don't want people to abuse them. Someone abused the rules at Nats versus Mike and like clearly was cheating in a way that the rules allowed him to cheat. Like judge was there and everything. Like it was ridiculous. It was absurd what happened, but this person found out a way to abuse the rules if he was about to lose the game. And I won't say any more on that. If you ask about it, no one's going to say anything about it because literally I do not want people to learn about this flaw in the system. And it's almost the same thing here. Like I probably shouldn't even said that because now if people do want to slow play, now they know to use the he said, she said argument, right? Yeah. So it's just like, it's so subjective and it's like, how do you enforce subjective rules? I don't know. Like, yes, if your opponent's clearly slow playing, call a judge, but it's like, it's just tough. It's very, very,
it's hard to resolve,
to enforce. Same thing with draws. Like before these rules, draws were never okay in Dragon Ball, but we always had them because you can't enforce it. You can't tell me that I have to attack someone's leader and progress like that way. You can't tell me that. I can say, no, my strategy right now is not attack. I don't want to give him a card. You can't argue that logic with me. And you can't tell them that and if the judge starts saying that the logic is wrong, now that judge is giving a player tips. The judge cannot be doing that either. The judge can't help a player.
I think there's a way that you can police slow play without addressing the actual actions of the game. So I've seen people who take let's say your deck searches top 5 after a leader swing. Searching top 5, shuffling your deck. It does not take you 2 minutes to shuffle your deck. Get it, shuffle it, let me cut it, let's move along. Similarly, I know there was one player, and if you're listening to this, you know exactly who you are, that
Oh
would
boy.
take their life. Yeah, they would innocently, and they've even said as much, they would innocently slow play by taking dice and rolling them to determine what life they're going to take. Grab a damn life. Grab the
Yeah, that's
fucking
crazy.
life. Let's move along. And they've
I'll
even
call
laid
the
it out like,
judge.
oh yeah, absolutely. Like, don't take a life. Why are we doing this? Why is there like this dice game that we're going on alongside of this Dragon Ball game? Don't do that. Play the damn game. Let's move along.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. And like, yeah, call it out every single time. It's just there's flaws in the system of slow play.
Yep.
And then on the flip side, I think if you're too harsh about it, you can penalize players who really weren't slow playing. You know, then you have like that side of it too. It's a very way more complex issue than people make it out to be a slow play. So I don't know what the fix is. I would love there to be some way to time it and quantify it objectively. Maybe someone smarter than me can figure it out, please. I don't know what it is, but like, I don't know. As a community, hopefully we can just continue to push the idea of having like actual integrity and just playing Dragon Ball proper without slow playing people. But anyways, not to go away from the main point. I think the main point of this that we talked about, just to summarize, we should never have play till undefeated. It should be set number of rounds based on players. And based on players, that needs to be heavily like analyzed. I haven't done the math. I don't know the correct amount, but I know in the past it has not always felt correct. Like it has, even in the past we had set number rounds, it felt like maybe we should have had one more. So like that whole system needs to be revamped and addressed effectively with people who have experience, like real experience running tournaments with a proven track record of positive player experience. That's who needs to be consulted when they're making these decisions. Best of one pre-side should be here to stay for all regional events and below. Please take best of one without a pre-side just completely away. No one wants it. There's too much variance. It's just silly. IDs are fine. Let people draw if they want to because you can't enforce it, and just fix the rules to cater back to the format where we're playing a set number of rounds. We can go and reverse everything. We'll have a better play experience. And if you don't want to, that's fine, because maybe the majority of players don't agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. But that's what I would like. And then regardless, we should have turns in game 2. And we need to have a system to call out slow play. And as players, we need to call out slow play when we see it, when we know it's malicious. I think that's it. Anything I missed?
Bandai, give us more events. Webcam's fine. At least we can police cheaters by having webcams that are streamed and whatnot.
Bro, Bandai, I am probably the only person who could run a tournament in a level 3 Discord server. Like, let me do it. I will not let any of the people I've banned in. So if that's
most of the cheaters, most of the outed cheaters.
Yeah. So like if that's an issue, I get it. Like, sure, I can't be a TO, but if you're okay with that, Bandai, well, let me run an event. But I will not go back on people that we banned. But yeah, I would love to, right? Like, it's crazy to me that people have Discord servers that are not level 3 that are running tournaments. I think that should be a minimum requirement to make sure you have the best play experience possible. But yeah, agreed.
And it's not like it's not a huge investment either for them.
No.
Like,
no, it's
a boost is what, $4 or $5,
yeah,
and you need 16
Discord,
of them.
Discord actually lowered the amount you need. I think it's only 14 boosts now. It used to be 30.
Yeah, like 14.
It used to be 30.
Yeah, completely feasible, especially if you're a TO who's running weekly tournaments for various different games. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a level 3 boosted server. Give everyone the ability to play games without any streaming issues. Give it priority.
Yep.
There's no reason not to.
Yep, I agree. Okay. All right. Well, I think we did a good job at summarizing this, hopefully. We may have not been as professional as Joey, but I think we got some good points across. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that. Let's hop into results of training.
Results of training.
All right, so for results of training, I will just quickly give you the tournament report from the Comet Kings case tournament. I played Blue Baby. Baby is amazing right now. I think I have finally gotten it to a point. It took me a lot longer than Mike did, but Mike has been helping me. I got it to a point where it can keep up with KP just fine. I think it's a top tier deck. I think it's a top tier deck. Like, everyone defines tiers differently, so please don't hit me with the arguments about tiers. I really don't care. They're subjective and don't matter. I'm just trying to say I think it is very, very powerful. I think it can hang easily with pretty much almost every deck in the format. My tournament report, game 1 versus Milnemba. I don't know why people are playing.
Imagine.
All right, to be fair, this was a local buddy of ours, Alan, and he has not even played Dragon Ball in a minute, and just like threw Milnemba together because he saw people playing it and was like, "Sure, I'll play." We had a fun time. He actually got a game off me because he milled my Turning the Tide, and you need Turning the Tide to put the cards back in your deck. So he milled me out of that game, and then game 3. I won. We were in time, and I did more damage than him. Game.
Man, imagine almost losing to Milnemba. Couldn't be me.
Yeah, it felt terrible. I was like, oh my god, like
He hit you with the old duck
you don't
dizzle.
have 17, or they have Jiren. Because I don't play like Baby Unison and Baby anymore. So like they have Jiren, or I don't see 17. They mill it. I'm like, damn. You probably just do lose that matchup. Like. But I'm not siding for Milnemba. I'm just completely disrespecting it every time. So, anyways, the next round I play against Red U7 Goku. Honestly, I've never lost a match to U7 Goku. I will say I came the closest I ever did to dropping a game playing as Baby, but you have Dirty Burst to stop their 8 drops from swinging. You have every floodgate in the world. Vegeta Ready to Rumble gets around the Vegeta Resolve Renewed. You just have kind of like every answer. They can't attack through Ready to Rumble because then they don't have access to the cards they need, their bombs, or they can play without their bombs, but then their deck sucks. So like it's just not a good time for them. I milled him out, and that's pretty much how that match went. This poor guy, I felt bad for him. He had to play Mike right after me, who was also playing through Baby. So he went for, and what was even worse was I went for the mill, but Mike went for the kill. So he was like, "Oh, I know how to play against this deck now." So he was playing specifically to not get milled out, and then Mike just killed him with Kale both games, and I was like, "This poor guy, this poor guy." Like, it literally doesn't matter what you do as Baby, you just win. I don't know. It's a really bad matchup for Red U7. And then round 3, I played against SS4 Vegeta. I lost. SS4 Vegeta, I think, does get the better of Baby because they can ramp. Like, you can burn through negates depending on your hand, but sometimes you just don't have the early negate. Like, game 1, I just didn't have my, like, didn't have my Revenge Big Bang. So I was like, damn, all right. Guess his attack's going through. And, yeah, they're able to ramp, and then you have to choose. Do you want to play around Turning the Tide, or do you want to play around Tragedy Overground? You can't play around both at the same time because they're opposite strategies. One builds a board, one does not. So it's just a tough matchup with at least the build I have for Baby. Again, because I'm not playing Baby Unison. It might be stronger with Baby Unison because then you have access to the free Baby Avengers. But across the format, that Unison is not very good for Baby right now. You just don't need it. Boo Unison is way, 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 way stronger. So yeah, I got clapped. I expected to get clapped. I also did not even side Jiren because I was completely disrespecting the matchup. I literally sided nothing for SS4. So I went in knowing I'd probably lose that matchup. So it's fine. Last round, I played against another Red U7 Goku, and it went exactly like the first match. It's just easy. I don't know. It's an easy match. So yeah, I topped. Mike also topped. We both topped a Blue Baby. And then Sean won the whole event, went undefeated with Yellow Sin. We always split. Like, I don't think we've ever played out. For maybe one time we played out at a case tournament. Like, we're all friends. Like, so top 8 just kind of, you get your 2.5 boxes and call it a day. So anyways, that was my tournament report. Those are my results. Also got to shout out Pro Mats. This segment always brought to you by Pro Mats. They have the best mats in the game. Go check them out, promats-customs.com. The cloth mats are in production, so everyone who pre-ordered them, I appreciate that. They will be getting to you hopefully pretty soon. I'm hoping to have them within the next couple weeks. And then as soon as I have them, obviously they'll get shipped to you. But I'm pumped to see those. But yeah, If you need one, again, check him out. He's got all kinds of different designs. He just dropped, I think, a new Broly design, and it was fire. It looks so nice. So, yeah, definitely show him some love. Or if you need a Hermit Style Pro Mat, I do still have rubber ones available. Just DM me. Just shoot me a message. I'll hook you up. So, anyways, any results of training you would like to talk about, Jay?
So we went through my Kentucky. I'm not going to double back on that. Basically, I want to go ahead and redact something or I guess run back a bit of information we went over earlier this week. If you're a patron, you know that we did a live stream where we went ahead and just took some questions, just talked about the game in general, and we ranked blue decks. And in retrospect, and thinking about it a little bit more in depth, I put Soul Striker ahead of Baby. That's idiot. Wrong. Yep. That's wrong. So the rationale behind it is Blue Baby just has a better red matchup, and I think that right there is enough. I am not losing to Soul Striker as a KP or U7 player. I am beating the dog shit out of you on repeat. By the time turn 3 turns around, you're not having a good time, and you better have hoped to have seen your unison, otherwise you just lose. Baby can actually sustain past the turn 3-4 and see the later game where they actually having a chance to win. Soul Striker just doesn't have that. Yeah. And Baby's easily the better of the two decks. So going back to just the best blue decks, definitely Baby.
I do think SS4 is very, very strong.
It's so good.
I was very conflicted on whether to play Baby or SS4. My determining factor was I no longer own a playset of UI Kamehamehas. So I was like, I'm just going to play Baby. But I do think SS4 is very, very strong. Very, very close to Baby. I think they're both. I will play both of them over Soul Striker, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there's any real debate in my mind now, and I apologize for leading everyone astray. So
I'm telling
here I am I'm atoning.
Every time we say Baby is a deck, we're not lying. Like, when we did it the first time, no one believed us. All of a sudden, me and Mike just sweeping every tournament. Like it's nothing. Going XO, X1 every time. This time, Baby's a deck. Like, I don't know. It's
Nobody listens.
Yeah,
I don't know
I will
why.
say it's definitely nothing like it was last time. There are a lot more outs to it, and it is much more difficult to play. So, like, it's not like it's, like, the best deck. Like, back then, yeah, like, Baby was probably the best deck then. Now, it's much more difficult, but it's still amazing. Very strong.
But it has a good red matchup, and that goes a long way in this current format.
Yeah.
I think Baby is a fine choice, and if you have everything to play Baby, do it.
Yep. Nope.
You don't even have to play like heavy mill either. That's the thing. Like, you can play it the more attack style for the late game with the 17. You don't have to necessarily just play a mill deck as Baby. So there's a lot of ways you can build it, but it's versatile.
And people always ask, like, oh, I want a budget deck to play, right? Like, you look at KP and it's so expensive with all these TPs. We're back. I feel like it's like deja vu. I'm like, you just play Baby, bro. It's not that expensive. Like, it's not that. Revenge Big Bangs have come down. Baby hatches are down below 200 right now for the RE version. I think they're at like 170, 180. I'm sure you could talk someone down to like 150 in the groups or like a private sale. Like, that's nothing for a playable SCR. But yeah, it's a great deck. It's, in my opinion, budget friendly. It's very easy to play. The only thing you really have to grind is KP and learn how to play against that matchup. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. It's just a fun deck, man. I don't know. I like it. So if you want to play a blue control deck, Baby is a great choice. And not to say Soul Striker is like, I don't think Soul Striker is bad by any means. I'd always play Baby over it. I'm just not going to play Soul Striker.
Soul Striker just doesn't have a good red matchup. That's literally the entire rationale for my debate now. Yeah, or my switch up even.
That's fair. All right, so cool. That wraps up results training. Let's finish this up with Manaka.
I got a special order on a pallet of sweets for Jocko.
Wait, aren't you Manaka?
Manaka's Delivery Service.
All right, so we will do this one pretty quick. We'll do two questions here. We'll do two questions. First one, I just want to say this one because it's funny and everyone reacted it. From Washed in the Grand Tour, Eric. He said, "Have you ever stepped into the Grand Tour?" And then he put Grand Tour in parentheses, like the GT theme song. Yeah, Eric, I will say majority of Hermit Style has stepped into the Grand Tour, and I have a feeling it's all I'll be playtesting against in the near future.
I'm going to tell you a very brief story. I spent 31 years on this earth without realizing that GT stood for Grand Tour
Oh yeah.
until last weekend. And I had an epiphany. It was a moment while I was driving where I just considered everything in life and whether it's been factual or a lie. So there's me learning things even still.
There you go.
I've seen the way.
Next question we'll take from Leon, a patron, which if you guys are not already, feel free to check out the Hermit Style Patreon. Have a lot of cool content up there. We have deck play guides. If the baby deck interested you, I regularly post every update I make to baby with a full, like, I don't know how many word article, probably 5,000 words. I go in on them. I talk about like every single matchup, sideboarding strategy, curves, average energy cost of decks, all kinds of stuff. But I have a full baby play guide. We've got Zach just posted up a great priest play guide for a more fun deck. So we cover a lot of different content in there. We offer coaching. And we're doing live streams. I believe John Carlo is going to be doing a live stream soon for the Patreon. But yeah, all kinds of stuff, coaching, deck doctors, check it out. If you really want to elevate your game or get access to more competitive content or just learn more about what the A team for Hermit Style is doing, you will get that when you join. And I try and give as much value as I can. So like if you have a question or just something you want to know or content you want to see, put it in there, and I usually will do everything I can to get that to you. So we do a lot for our patrons, and a lot of, like I said, a lot of our team is involved in making content for it. So feel free to check that out. It supports the podcast. It supports the team, so we can keep doing what we do and keep delivering like this quality kind of content. But yeah, so anyways, Leon said, he said, this one's for Jimmy. Give me 5 solid reasons as to why someone who does not play RPG style games should play Elden Ring. I had to answer this. All right. So you're talking to me because like before I played a Dark Souls game, I was not into games like I played RPGs, but nothing like this. Like this takes RPGs to like the next level. You know, like when Skyrim was out, like Skyrim was not for me, like that style game, like the Scrolls games, like not for me. All right, Elden Ring, 5 solid reasons. Reason number 1, it is incredibly fun to play with friends. Incredibly fun to just walk through a level with friends, all experiencing the level for the first time. Incredibly fun. You'll just be walking around and all of a sudden a random dragon the size of like 30 of you just flies down and just starts breathing fire on you, and you all have to fight it. And you're all yelling, going crazy, trying to figure out what the hell to do. So that's the first reason. Incredibly fun to play with friends. Second reason, you can play the game literally any way you want to. So you can play with any different kind of build and cater your character to that. You don't just, if you're a person who wants to like grind out and max stats to be efficient, you can. If you're someone who wants to play more aesthetically like me, you can run around with a pumpkin head and a vest that looks like you're in Hogwarts and a samurai sword and, you know, just do your thing. So you can play it literally any way you want to. Third reason, you will like never run out of stuff to do. There is like the world is probably the biggest world I've ever played in a video game for like a console. It's crazy. Number 4, let me think. Number 4, it's very difficult. I enjoy a challenge. If you do not enjoy challenging games, it's probably not for you unless you have 2 friends who are really good at it because they can just carry you. But if you don't have that and you don't like challenges, it's probably not for you. But I don't like a game like Pokemon Arceus is fun, but I still haven't beaten it because I lost interest in it because it's not challenging at all. Like it's literally not challenging in the slightest. It's cool. You can go around, collect the Pokemon, do your thing, but like it is not a hard game. Very easy. It's made obviously catered to kids. Elden Ring, very, very challenging. It will be challenging, especially if you've never played a Dark Souls game. It'll be even more challenging. So, reason number 5. I mean, there's so many reasons. I guess the next one, it would have to be a tie between like just the overall graphics, like all these different cool things you get to experience, different parts of the world, but also just the fact that you can like you really have the decision to make your own choices. Like there is this NPC character in the game, and I wanted his armor. And like, I have no idea if this messed up a plot line, but I just killed the dude. I was like, you gotta die. I need your armor. So I killed him, took his armor, and it's sweet. His Ronin armor. I said, oh my God, I needed that. So, you know, you make your own choices and then you just deal with however that impacts the game. Like every choice you make can impact the game and give you a different player experience, which means doing reruns of the game is like really fun because you can get a different experience every time you play it. There's 5 reasons, Leonard. Got it. I didn't know if I would get there on the fly, but we did it. Play Elden Ring. It's the best game ever made. I love it. I'm probably going to play it tonight and stay up too late. But yeah. Anyways.
I just bought it, so that'll be happening for me too. Can't wait.
Hell yeah. Another one. All right. We're going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you again for listening. I do want to shout out Luis, King of Music, who is a patron. He is a subscriber to the Patreon. I appreciate you. I always try and shout out the patrons that support. So, yeah, shout out to you. And he's like, I have to give him a huge shout out because he passed me in the Discord. He is the first person to ever pass me. He is rank 1 in the Discord. So I said, the Discord's yours, bro.
About to Zeno snap this whole thing, start all over.
Yeah, he's the first person to ever pass me in levels. And I did not think he could do it, but hey.
Guy grinds. He grinds it like we grind Elden Ring.
He did it, bro.
Soon.
Yeah. So double shout out to Luis, the Frieza God. Yeah. I'll give you a quick snippet before we end too. I know a lot of people enjoyed Winter League when we did the whole Pokemon style league in the Discord playing Dragon Ball. Summer League is in the works. I will be announcing that within the next 2 weeks. Brant, Nuke and Foos have been working really hard on it, and it will be Yu-Gi-Oh themed. So it's going to be like season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh where they're like at the
Starships. Yeah,
like that kind of whole style. So that will be the inspiration for Summer League. So be on the lookout. We're hoping to start sometime in May, I think. So that should be really fun. But anyways, that's it. Jay, any last words?
Shout out to Bree for saying that shout outs are dumb. They're not dumb, so shout out to her. And then yeah. Shout out to the team. Shout out to you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. A lot of fun.
No problem. That was a good shout out. All right, guys. We will see you next time. Bye, Manscaped.
Back every day, I got to shed this weight, I try whatever I